Everyone. For joining us on another Aggie Sports Zoom Hangout. I'm over here with Robert Cessna of the Eagle. I'm Travis Brown of the Eagle. We also have Alex Miller of the Eagle. The whole crew is here, and we have the great, the talented, the hilarious, the non-mulleted former Texas A&M defensive tackle Jay Arnold on this week to kind of break down what's going on with this A&M team so far and look ahead to the future. Jay, thanks so much for hopping on with us today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be on.
Yeah, for sure. So let's just start with your initial thoughts of the season. I know it was a big game for the defensive line against Mississippi State. What did you see so far from this team?
Well, I think speaking of that defensive line, one thing that I think has jumped out to me so far this season has been the play of DeMarvin Leal. Obviously, he's having an incredible season. We knew when he was coming out of high school that he was one of the more talented guys in his class, and I think this year he's really been living up to that. I mean, you saw him put a spin move on a guy in this Mississippi State game. It was I was pretty proud, to be honest. I used the spin move probably a little bit too much, and he did it a lot better than I did.
Yeah, I'm kind of interesting always as a media guy. I'm always happy for a bye week because that means I get a little bit less work. We always hear the coach speak of how important the bye weeks are. How important are the bye weeks?
Well, I think bye week is really important. You get to see what kind of adjustments you need to make. It's a time to kind of look back at the film that you've got so far this year, see where you need to make your improvements. This year, bye weeks are going to be a little bit weird. I think with everything going on with the virus, you could see A&M have another bye week pop up. But I think the main thing for a bye week in this year is just going to be trying to get those mental reps in, going back and analyzing film. You want to see the stuff you did well in games like Mississippi State, where the defense was able to shut down the running attack, but you also want to see where you struggled. So you look at games like Alabama and Florida where A&M struggled in the secondary, and kind of analyze that and then see where the improvements can be made. Obviously, you want to get bodies healed up, and with this season being such a chaotic time, with everybody, not getting a full prep for the year, there's probably going to be some soft tissue injuries, things like hamstrings, stuff like that guys have strained or pulled. They're getting a chance this week to kind of rest up a little bit more than they normally would, and take that advantage of the bye week to bounce back.
Also, if I could follow up, this is a time where we always see players go home. You see them on the sidelines of high school games in the past. They would go here, there. With the COVID, do you think there'll be more of those players staying here in Bryan-College Station and not going?
Yeah, you'd have to think that with everything going on with the virus, taking a chance on going home, it increases your likelihood of spreading it, and it increases your likelihood of catching it. So with that in mind, I would think that the coaching staff probably has some kind of restrictions in place. If not mandated restrictions, you're at least strongly encouraging the guys to stay home. We've seen that in scenarios like NBA or NHL bubbles were able to successfully combat the virus, keep the teams playing. Obviously, they're not able to do that on a college campus, but the closest you can get is just staying in your dorm or in your apartment when available, and the only time you're really leaving is to either go get food or go up to the facilities for workouts or film. And I would think that the coaching staff is probably going to keep them on a leash.
Yeah, how many, on average, players do you think usually went back home or took advantage of the time to go back and see some family during a bye week when there isn't a pandemic going on when you were playing?
Yeah, well, obviously you're still in school, so during the week you're not going to be going home. But on the weekends, guys that were in-state guys, either Houston or Dallas, We tried to get home when we could, just because it's not very often. And I mean, obviously, sometimes that's it depends on the coaching staff. I don't know what Jimbo's bye week protocols were in 2018 and 2019, but anytime you get to the weekend, you don't have a game lined up. It's nice to be able to go back and see the family for a little bit, or an occasion you may go see one of your friends that plays at a different school. If it's somebody that you knew in the recruiting process. I know some guys would go watch Texas play or go watch a Baylor game or something like that, where it's easy driving distance. Guys could just, catch up with either like a high school teammate or somebody that they worked out with over the summer, things like that. So it wasn't always necessarily just going home, but just kind of escaping from the monotony of staying in town for the entire season.
What is your best bye week memory? Is there anything like funny that happened when you think of bye weeks? What first thing that pops to your mind?
The main thing I think of is just being able to sleep in on the weekends. I mean, obviously you're not waking up early for film before getting ready for a game. You're not having to sleep at the hotel. That the hotel food was fine. Don't get me wrong, but it is nice to be able to wake up whenever you want to have your meal and not have to be on a set schedule. So I mean, I can just one of my probably my favorite bye week memories though is just getting out of practice on a Thursday and realizing that you don't have to have everything packed up ready to go for Friday to either fly out or head to the hotel after walkthroughs.
Yeah, Jay, I'm also a numbers guy, and it's been a while since A&M players have played 6 straight conference games. I went and checked. I think since they joined the SEC, the most they've played in a row without a Saturday off, whatever, or a gimme game like, Prairie View, whatever, was 5. And I think that was you guys in 2016 when you had that streak with Tennessee. So my question is, how much is that going to take out of these guys, do you feel, playing 6 straight SEC games, the first team to do that?
Yeah, I mean, it's something that no one's ever really prepared for. I mean, you can say you've prepared for it as much as you can, but until you've done it, you don't really know how it's gonna work out. Obviously, we liked having scheduled games with opponents that weren't conference. So you still have to take those games seriously, but it tends to not be as much of a wear on the body, especially when you look at the size of the offensive lines in the SEC. But I mean, when you're really thinking about how much of a beating it puts on the body, the thing is, I mean, everybody's got to go through it this year. No one's getting those out of conference games to kind of reset. It all kind of depends on where the bye week's positioned. Luckily for A&M, I think that with Alabama and Florida, 2 of their toughest opponents out of the way, they're getting a good spot for the bye week to kind of reset. And you look at the rest of the games on the schedule. I mean, from what we've seen, A&M has a chance to win any of these games. I think you look at the rest of the year. I mean, Auburn, obviously taking a loss against the South Carolina team on the road. And struggling with Arkansas. But on the flip side of that, you have a team like Arkansas who has looked a lot better than everybody expected them to be. So, if there's one game on the schedule that A&M has circled that says this may be a conference game, but it's an opponent that hasn't really been up to par. Arkansas, the way Arkansas is playing, that's not that game anymore. Not that it ever has been for A&M for whatever reason. Obviously, it's always been a tough team to play in Jerry World. Never really made sense, but no matter how good A&M and Arkansas were, that game ends up being close. It's just, you look at it and sure, your first instinct is to say, wow, this is a beating for us. We have to play 6 straight conference games and keep going through the conference slate of games. But at the same time, every other team in the SEC is having to do it as well. So, you can either sit and dwell on it or you can look at it as a challenge and try to rise to meet it. And I think the way these guys are are playing so far, they're leaning towards the latter.
You mentioned DeMarvin Leal. What is some other thing that you're really looking forward to? You're really looking out for this team as they move down the schedule more.
I think you have to look at the way A&M has been running the ball these last 2 weeks. Obviously, Isaiah Spiller, I'm a big fan of his. I think he just runs angry, if that makes sense. I think he's always looking to get that extra yard. And, as I'm a defensive guy, but you see somebody like that, somebody with that approach to the game, I think he's just a joy to watch. He plays with what I would consider a defensive mentality. He's running out there. He's trying to deliver the hit. He's not the one that's trying to be hit. He wants to deliver the hit. And I think that's something to watch. Another thing that I have my eye on is just, how are the young guys going to perform in this season? We saw Shane get some, if I'm saying that right, a chain. Okay, you saw
close
him.
enough.
Yeah.
I mispronounce Arnold. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough sometimes to get all these names right. But I want to see how all the young guys adapt. Obviously, you're seeing a chain gets thrown in the mix. I'd like to see Demas get a little bit of time out there to see how he adapts. So it's just, obviously with Jimbo's offense, it's a complex system. It takes time to get in there and learn everything, but just seeing how the young guys adapt is going to be key, because if they're able to adapt in a season as topsy-turvy as this, then I think it's a good sign for the future. Because hopefully, I certainly hope so, that they'll never have a season as wild as this, as far as so many variables. But if they're able to adapt to it, I think it's a good sign.
You mentioned the run game. How improved is this A&M offensive line from the year before or the 2 years before? Because that was kind of the weakest link a lot of times for this whole offensive system. They didn't have a spring practice. They had limited fall workouts. Fall camp was wonky. It was going to be a big question mark if they were going to be able to make any progress. And it seems like they've done that. As a defensive lineman, what have you seen from them?
Yeah, it's been wild because I didn't expect the level of improvement that I had, but that offensive line has looked incredible this year. And I have to tip my hat to Josh Henson and the work he's done as the offensive line coach. I just think that, they're opening holes. They're protecting Kellen Mond better than they did last year. And just seeing this offensive line take that next step is a huge plus. Obviously, you can't get anything done without the guys in the trenches. And you said it, the way this offensive line was probably expected to be a weak point for this team, and the fact that they've stepped up everybody along that line. From Carson Green stepping up at right tackle. McCollum playing center. I feel like all of these guys have just kind of gotten over the hump that we expected them to get over last year. I think we expected a better team to begin with, but it's been like all the progress that we expected last year with an older team stepping up, we're seeing this year.
And I'll throw one more in there while we're on this line. Have you seen an A&M offensive line pull as much as they have this year, which has helped the run game? Because it seems like that's a little bit of a newer addition.
Yeah, I think it's – and I've been critical of Jimbo in the past, of him not necessarily adapting the offense to the personnel, but I think that getting the movement on the offensive line, it's not something that we saw a lot with someone's offenses in the past. And I think I don't know if that's a Henson deal where Henson brought in that scheme, or if it's something that Jimbo has just kind of tried to play off of a little bit more. But the way this offensive line is pulled has definitely been something new for me to see.
You also touched on, Jay, talked about the complexity of Jimbo's offense, and we've heard that before. Could it even be too complex that it takes a while for an offensive lineman to get comfortable with it? Can it be that complex at times or not?
I think it definitely could be. I mean, I would have to get in there and see what exactly the blocking schemes are. See how Jimbo, how that's called relative to his offensive play calling. And obviously, I don't know, exactly how their schemes are set, but I think with as complex as it is in the route tree and as it would be on the quarterbacks, I'd imagine you get some of those same complexity issues for the offensive line, knowing where the protection's going on a certain situation.
You mentioned the big Arkansas game coming up after the bye week. You played Arkansas a few times. What's your best Arkansas memories?
Oh man. So my freshman year, we actually played at Arkansas. It was a cold, rainy game up there. And, I much preferred playing home and home than I do playing at Cowboy Stadium or AT&T Stadium, I suppose. There's something that you just miss with the environment. And although this year with it, with the fans being limited, it changes things. But there's something that you just miss when you go to a neutral site game at a place like or AT&T Stadium. I feel like the stadium just doesn't have that much character. There's certain neutral site games that work out. Army Navy comes to mind, Texas OU at the Cotton Bowl, where the neutral site is just a part of that game. I feel like with AT&T Stadium, Arkansas and A&M, they were just kind of trying to force it, and it never really felt like a natural fit to me. So I really enjoyed my freshman year playing at Arkansas a lot more than I did my sophomore year playing at AT&T Stadium.
I think that's a good point. I enjoyed going up there as opposed to going to AT&T. I'm with you 100% on that, Jay. Even though the weather was bad, I was in Westbuck, so I didn't have to worry about it.
Well, it's that bad weather builds character. So I mean, you're in a sheltered dome there. You don't really get any of the outside influences that help you become a better team. So you need that open air stadium early in the season to help maybe get some bad weather and build some adversity for the team.
Did you kind of throw on your Cowboys did you kind of throw on your Ditka voice there a little bit?
I sorry, I'm trying to one question at a time, please.
I said, did you kind of throw on your Ditka voice there
while
you were breaking down there?
I think maybe it's the monsters of the Midway. You have to kind of get into that Chicago voice there for a little bit. Sorry, what were you saying, Alex?
I was just saying the Cowboys did open that roof yesterday, though. Pretty ugly game for them, though.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit tough when you're missing your star quarterback. Obviously.
Listen, Andy Dalton's a good quarterback.
Hey, I mean, I'm not trying to say anything bad about a former TCU quarterback, obviously. Maybe I just lean towards the SEC guy in Dak. If the bias got you there, I'm sorry about that. I appreciate the talents of both guys.
Good.
Hey, former A&M receiver Christian Kirk had a pretty big catch last night from former A&M quarterback Kyler Murray.
Yeah, I was gonna say former A&M quarterback QBU. You got guys like Kyler Murray and Kyle Allen in the league right now, repping A&M, obviously.
They were just really rent quarterbacks. They weren't here for a long time. They were just.
Well, I mean, 4 years is a short time, really. Anyway, so I guess all quarterbacks are kind of rent quarterbacks when you look at it that way.
Steve, you got anything else?
No, I just I think that covered it all. I guess one thing, why do you feel is Jimbo? Do you feel Jimbo's turned the corner? And if so, why is Jimbo going to maybe have more success than his predecessors?
I think honestly, to me, it's still too early to tell if he's turned that corner or not. I think, we're 4 games into the season. Good start for A&M, 3-1, and obviously getting that top 5 win at home is a great indicator. But he's got to finish the season strong, and it's not going to be easy. Ole Miss has been playing great offense. You have Arkansas, who is obviously a much improved squad. Auburn's dangerous no matter what. South Carolina doesn't look like a bad team. You have a Tennessee team who's struggling right now, but I mean, you're going to play at Tennessee. That could be a tough contest. So we have to see how Jimbo finishes this season. Like you said, we have a chance, or A&M has a chance to win every single game left on their schedule. They also have a chance to lose every game left on the schedule, and that's what happens when you play a conference-only slate. So we'll see how Jimbo finishes this year off. I think if he runs the table, A&M finishes with 1 loss, and that 1 loss coming to Alabama. There's a lot to look forward to going into next season. If he struggles with some of these teams, which I expect some struggle, but you have to win close games. So far, other than the Alabama game, A&M has come out on top in close contests. Obviously, the Vanderbilt game was a lot closer than anyone would have liked, but with it being the first game of the season in a pandemic year, struggles are to be expected. But I want to see, in particular, how Jimbo does against Ole Miss, Arkansas, and Auburn. Those are the 3 games that I think I have circled left on the schedule. Depending on how he does in those 3 contests, I think will tell us a lot about how Jimbo's tenure is going to finish up here in College Station.
So 6 games left. Do you have a prediction? Do you want to throw one out there? Do you have are you going to back away from this?
I feel like predictions just always get you in trouble. I feel like whenever we try to look at the future, it ends poorly, and people always end up mad at you for one reason or another. But I will give out my prediction. I think that A&M finishes with these last 6 games with a 5-1 record. I think they struggle against one of those 3 teams that I mentioned.
That's good.
But I think they do well against the rest of the schedule. It's just, like I said, it's tough to really nail down anything with this year, the way it's gone. And I mean, we're assuming that they play all 6 of those games. But I think Ole Miss is the one that really gives me worries, just because of how strong that offense has been through the air and how A&M's defense has looked against the passing attack of Florida and Alabama.
An 8-2 will put you exactly what I guessed the season would be prior to the season. So your check is in the mail.
All right, sounds good. I'll be keeping an eye out for it.
Alex has the ender today. Alex, go for it.
Yeah, Jay, I think we'd be remiss to not get some food takes from you before you go. So first of all, I know you just went on your big road trip, and what did you think, and what did you get? I know it's a big hit in the Southeast.
Yeah, so we got some great North Carolina style whole hog barbecue in Asheville from a place called Buxton Hall, which was really good. Obviously, I still think brisket is probably the best of the barbecue meats, but that pulled pork up there that they had was sensational. They used a vinegar sauce, which I actually thought paired pretty well with the pork. I think the acidity cut through the fattiness of the meat really well. I think that's kind of what you want in the sauce, to just kind of pair well with the meat. You don't really want it to overpower. I think sometimes you get either a mustard or a tomato-based sauce that overpowers the meat, and I think they have it right up in Carolina, where you get the vinegar on there, and it just pairs nicely with it.
That's good. And, we all know North Carolina barbecue is a close second to Texas barbecue. So give us your 3 best Texas barbecue joints and maybe a pro tip for those going to get a good meal at those places?
All right. So number one, I think Texas Monthly has this right. Snow's Barbecue in Lexington. I mean, it has to be number one. The brisket is just unreal. But the pro tip, you have to get the pork shoulder steak. You have to whenever you go to Snow's. My second joint would probably be Corkscrew in Spring, Texas. I think Corkscrew probably has the best pulled pork in Texas. So make sure you get that when you get there. Obviously, the brisket and everything is going to be incredible too. And then finally, my third would probably also be another North Houston area joint. It would be Tejas Chocolate Craftery up in Tomball. My pro tip for that one would be you absolutely have to get the chili relleno sausage. It is maybe the best sausage I've ever had. It's really sensational. And they also have RC Cola, which I think goes really great with barbecue. I'm either a Topo Chico or a Big Red guy normally with my barbecue, but an RC is pretty hard to beat.
Red guy myself. That's my go-to when I get barbecue.
Good taste here on the from the Eagle. I can tell.
Listen, I'll let you two meet guys battle it out later, but we need to go ahead and end this Zoom hangout. Jay, thanks so much for chatting with us today, and we'll be sure to have you on again down the line. Take care, and we'll talk to everyone else on this soon. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks again for having me.